Welcome to the Win Daily Show. Today I got a special guest. His name is Ian Hartitz. Ian, you've kind of worked in this industry for a long time, NFL expert. I go to you for my plays, I'll be honest. I always got to see that helicopter report come out on Twitter. So talk about how you got started, where you got started, and where you're at now.
Yeah, man, appreciate you having me on. So pretty much my whole life, time I was little, it's all been around football. I got a letter from Bill Belichick in my room where I was sending him plays when I was like 8 years old, trying to suggest things he could do at Troy Brown, to do something different. So it's always been the game of football for me that I was obsessed with. Middle school, high school, got into college, playing football. It wasn't anything too special. I was a Division III linebacker. Was never going to the league or anything like that, but love the game. And, after I got my second concussion, I knew I wasn't going pro. Decided to, take care of the brain and just go do something else in my life. And, so once I quit the game, lasted about a month before I just missed it. I had a whole bunch of time in my hands. I never considered what I was really going to do after it. I just knew I wanted to get back into football. So I went to school, pretty just competitive college in general, University of Chicago. So I knew I had just kind of research credentials and, it's going through a bunch of finance stuff. I knew how to research. I knew how to do different things with Excel. I knew, even though I couldn't write yet, I knew I could potentially help people sort spreadsheets and things like that. So, I used to read every single football article I could find. I mean, I remember Bleacher Report, slideshows, whatever. I read every single thing I could find. And at some point, I just got to thinking to myself, like, I think I can do it better than these guys. When you're reading something and you're consistently kind of finding issues with whatever you're reading. And, kind of like Kanye said at one point, if you can do it better than me, then you do it. So I just felt like taking that chance about 7 or 8 years ago. I just started emailing every single writer I could find, internships, just lending myself for free, saying, hey, I can research for free. You're a writer. You already have your audience. Let me give you a spreadsheet of ideas that already have the research done, should make your life easier. Barely anyone ever emailed me back. I must have sent 50 of these things. And only guy that really got back to me was Jonathan Bales. He's a founder of Fantasy Labs, awesome guy. He did over 2,400 push-ups a couple of weeks ago. So he's got a lot of things going for him in his life. But pretty much first year, I did nothing except send Jonathan, spreadsheets of ideas and stuff every single week. And after that, I kind of proved my worth. He got me going with some different things, and he let me start writing on my own, which was great. And, I don't have a journalistic background. I pretty much learned how to write just from reading a bunch of articles and kind of deciding what worked best for me and what worked best for others. But it's also just doing that consistently. I mean, I've now been, coming up with ideas, researching ideas, writing ideas, coming out with this process every single week for pretty much the last 7 or 8 years. I mean, even when it's off season, when it's April, when it's May, June, there's no football being played, but there's unlimited variables we can study and do. So, getting him with Jonathan, doing things for him. When he started Fantasy Labs, was in there, worked companies like 4 for 4. Just the grind, man. I mean, look, I had to do some baseball things along the way, some back-end things along the way, hey, Ian, we have 6 hours of uploading this crap that people that are more successful than we didn't want to do. Happily signed up for it. Luckily now I don't have to do as many of those things anymore, but it was just how I got to where I am today. I think it's a mix of loving football and realizing that, there's light at the end of the tunnel. That you shouldn't necessarily not do something just because you don't want to do it that day. Try to keep the long-term view in mind. I didn't worry about working for free because I knew that if I did a good job, if I achieved my goal of what I was trying to do there'd be paid opportunities down the road. So every situation is different. This has worked out pretty well for me. With that said, there's still, plenty of people out there and I'm still chasing. So, it's just, I'm trying to be the best football analyst in the game, fantasy football, regular football, whatever. I've been trying to do that now for the last 7 or 8 years. We're not there yet, but I think we're getting closer. So
listen, you dropped a lot of knowledge. What I took from just that is you used to send letters to Bill Belichick as a young kid, which I thought he was awesome. Kind of like me, baseball was my first love. And once I knew I wasn't going to become a major league ball player, I shifted over to having fun in college. And then from there, it was the entrepreneurial in me that was always about to break out. So when I saw daily fantasy sports pop up, DraftKings or FanDuel, heard the commercial, I'm like, this shit was made for me. Like you're putting competition, sports, and money and business all in one. And, I started on the opposite. I'm like, I just got to start playing. Learning, willing to lose money. And in my book, I wrote, there's nothing like playing daily fantasy sports where you're putting in 50 hours of research a week minimum, if not more. You're putting your own money up, and then you can easily lose. And to put in all this, like you just said, willing to work for free because you know what's going to happen in the long run will pay off. Like in DFS, it's not only working for free, you could potentially lose money doing something. So it's like you're going to work for a week, you're putting in all this work, and then you got to pay your boss to work there. So it's the same kind of ideology and mindset, but we both have the same vision in mind that, you keep working at something and you put so much passion behind it, and you're not looking at it short term. Like when people approach me, I give everybody an opportunity these days. If someone says, yo, I want to write, all right, show me what you can do. Write. Send me an article. Let me check it out. Okay, I'll put it up on the site. Send me another one. See what the opportunity is really about. See what they're about. So I always know that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I want to surround myself with a guy like yourself in the NFL, get a mirror image of you for MLB, for NBA, so you can all teach me how to dive in. So for your mindset, I didn't even know it going into this interview that we'd be so connected to similar mindsets, but you have it, dude. You put the work in. You're not short-minded. I always ask people, are you in this for short-term money, or do you want to build a platform and build your name and build your brand within the industry? And the people who say, I need to get paid this much for an article, I'm like, I don't think this is the right fit for you. Even though I can afford it to pay him $10 or $20 an article, it's not going to last. It's really not going to last if you're not doing it for the right reason. So if you came up to me, 7 years ago, I would have gave you the opportunity, but I didn't have the business and we didn't know about each other. But that's the right mindset in life. And you can take that to anything. And you can pivot right now. If you wanted to pivot to the best esports analyst in the world, that's all we have right now. I'm sure that same mindset, you'd be in the top 10 somewhere after a couple of weeks. So it's very similar to me. Let's talk about football for a second. And I've been following you throughout your career, but this past year, you kind of just hit me with something that I got to talk about, these helicopters. Where did these helicopters come from? What was the idea behind the helicopters? Because I noticed it. I'm like, the hell is this helicopter? And then I see this play, and I just disregard it. Then I'm like, yo, Avi, like my guys work for me. I'm like, you see this guy? He's dropping his helicopters every week. And some way, somehow, this random dude, number 2 or number 3 receiver, goes off for like 120 and 2 touchdowns. I'm like, we got to start playing these guys. How did this start?
Oh man, the helicopter. So I owe that to the Los Angeles Chargers Twitter account. Actually, it was week 1 of this last season. And I was just all over Deshaun Jackson. I think he was like 4,300 on DraftKings or something ridiculous. It was just like every single thing was perfect for the guy. We knew he was starting. He just got paid a shit ton of money. They needed a field stretcher. We knew he was going to be out on the field. We knew Wentz was healthy. He was playing the Redskins, who have a bad secondary. Josh Norman is one of the slowest starting cornerbacks in the league. Revenge game Deshaun Jackson's like one of the greatest things we've ever seen over the last couple of decades. And it was just everything lining up from DJax, because again, DFS, you know this as well as I do. You can know all you want to know about the sport, but you also got to know pricing, bankroll. There's so much that goes into it and just on field. But everything was set up for Deshaun Jackson. I'm sitting there on TweetDeck in the morning, news rolling in, and I always send out a bunch of tweets in the morning to kind of, we write so much during the week. If there's more information that I've written, that's cool. I want to get it out one last time, sending out Sunday morning. So just wanted to pound in Deshaun Jackson as much as possible. And I see the Chargers Twitter account send out a helicopter and it says like just dropping in to say, we got some deal that expires at noon or something. And I was like, ooh, I like that helicopter. So went ahead and copy pasted the helicopter and said, just dropping down to say Deshaun Jackson's going for 100+ and 2 touchdowns today. Well, the guy freaking did it and went ahead and I think rolled it back with Hollywood Brown. Didn't work out. Went with Curtis Samuel. Kind of got there halfway. Took a couple of weeks off. And then when people started really realizing it, we had a 4-week stretch. It was like Derrick Henry, Marlon Mack, Golden Tate. Someone else got there. And it was just hitting a lot. But it's like the helicopter play. It's meant to be a really, really good GPP play that I think is going under the radar. I'm looking at projected ownership. I try to always leave out anyone that's top 5 projected ownership or projected points. That's easy. Anyone can say Saquon Barkley is going to have a really good game when he's facing the Panthers or something like that. But, it was guys I was looking at that I was going, okay, check. Why is more people not on this? So, trying to figure it out. Yeah, sometimes you look like an idiot. I said Kenny Galladay, even though Stafford was out, was going to have an awesome game. He didn't. Next week he does, but, I said the wrong week. So I was wrong. So it is what it is. You know, we're all gonna be wrong on stuff. But hey, if you really believe in something, make your point known. And I've found that, you know, when I really believe in something, if I want people to really see it, you put a helicopter out there, people tend to pay more attention.
Nah, smart, man. Really smart, creative. I can't figure out Twitter. Twitter is something I'll never figure out, but the helicopter definitely works. I'm assuming you're bringing it back, or maybe you're bringing something stronger, a tank rolling through this year, something like that. But I like to play. Now let's talk about NFL research from a DFS perspective. And I also want to know what's been your biggest DFS hit. So answer it in a two-part question, but like, when do you start your research for the week? I'm assuming you started on Monday or Tuesday. And what is your process? Because out of all my sports, I'll be honest with you, NFL is my least profitable sport. I think there's so much variation. If I had one fantasy superpower, it would be to get into coaches' minds, because I never have an idea of what they're going to do. Because if I did, I'd make a lot more money, but I don't, because they're looking at the same stuff we're looking at, and the coaches are looking opposite of each other. So if they know they got a weakness, outside of the Arizona not being able to cover a tight end for like the past 3 years, everything else is like a free-for-all for me. Like I don't see things so clearly from week to week. I'll have a couple of great weeks in DFS, and I'll have a couple of weeks like, what just happened? How did this happen? Yeah. And the variation that happens in the NFL is tough to stomach week to week, because, like I said before, you're doing a whole week's of research, and then you're sitting there all Sunday just like, why did I just do this to myself? Why did I go all in on this player and he just completely shit the bed? So what is your research process? What's been your biggest week in DFS? And how do you get into these coaches' minds to really separate the noise, all the talk, and all the stuff that you think is going to happen? And then, you know, these guys did it. Tampa Bay running, oh, we're going to start this dude. He's going to be the guy this week. And then he doesn't even get a touch. Like, how do you get through all that?
It's really, really, really hard, man. And it's such a small sample size. Like, that's the biggest issue at all this. We have a 16-game or 17-week regular season for the NFL. You know, take 4 years of that, and we got 68 games. That's still not even one full NBA or NHL season. So it's makes sense if, I mean, some of the best DFS players in the world, I'm sure, go entire stretches of an entire NFL season and not really make much money, because you're, you know, especially if I've always been more GPP. I just haven't been a cash player all that often. I'm getting to it more, but you just got to live with the reality that, you know, you got to wait for that spike. And when, you know, 10 weeks roll by and you haven't had that spike, it's incredibly frustrating. But I guess my way of kind of learning the process and getting through it. So I mentioned before, you know, working with Jonathan Bales, like, look, I'm not Jonathan Bales. I'm not CSU Ram 88. I'm not one of these DFS guys that just has won millions of dollars over the year, but I've worked incredibly close with them throughout my entire time I've been in the freaking industry. So, you know, I tried to combine everything I know about DFS in terms of, you know, salaries, trying to get the value there, balancing ownership, kind of, you know, not chasing price increases from the week before, try to chase guys that have a major decrease in salary, taking guys that are cheaper relative on DraftKings to FanDuel, you know, getting more exposure at different sites to help get you value over there. I try to balance everything I've learned with that with, again, just my pure love of football and everything that goes into that. And that's kind of where, you know, I think my articles are a little more unique, because I do try to add both those things into everything I do. But basically, from the time, you know, Sunday, usually, like at Roto World, we all have to do blurbs throughout the games, kind of talking about, you know, usually 10 or 12 blurbs from each team, even the backup running backs and stuff. We got to mention what they're doing, usage and all that. But once that stuff wraps up, I use NFL Game Pass condensed games. They're usually about 35 to 45 minutes. And between Sunday afternoon, night, and Monday night, I get every game watched from the previous week before. I really pay attention and track better ball touchdowns, nullified touchdowns, drops, things that really just don't pop up on the stat sheet that could go overlooked. You know, a wide receiver could have 5 targets, 3 catches, 20 yards. And if all you do is look at the box score, you're going to say that guy sucked. But maybe 2 of his targets freaking were bombs that he just missed. Before Will Fuller's 3 touchdown game this last year, he had like 2 just complete bombs where he had broken wide open and Watson missed them. I mean, people, you know, joke about Curtis Samuel and his air yards. Like, there's a reason why Josh Herzmeyer's air yard model has been so predictable. Guys that are getting deep targets down the field, they're going to hit at some point. Again, follow the opportunity. Don't necessarily chase, you know, okay, A.J. Brown, yeah, he's a fucking baller. Like, good for you, AJ, but it's really hard to predict when guys are going to get 3 or 4 targets that they're going to turn into 100 yards and a touchdown. So you're going to be wrong on that. There's going to be times, like you said, where a coach says this. I remember Bruce Arians finally, like week 13, Ronald Jones is our guy. He's earned the job. Ronald blows a pass protection first drive of the game and doesn't touch the ball the rest of the week. And, there's going to be people out there after you touted Ronald Jones that are going to come at you and say, what the heck, man, you're an idiot. But you just got to, again, try to stick to the process and just try to cover every single thing that you can. And I have found that, Twitter can be a unruly place. People aren't always the nicest. But in my experience, at least, I really do try to think out everything I'm doing, give, the possible positives and negatives. I have found that people are generally nice when they come back. My worst call of last season was fading Brashad Perryman, which sounds so weird to say that was my worst call. It's just been so right for years. But, it was after Godwin and Evans were out, and I was just like, it's Perryman. How can Brashad freaking Perryman be chalk? It's Brashad Perryman. Jameis's quarterback. The guy was going to get 10-plus targets. You don't fade guys getting 10-plus targets no matter what your preconceived notions might think about them. So, I'm far from perfect. I'm trying to learn every single week. But, through my articles, I truly believe like just the process of writing articles, it forces you to really organize your thoughts and I've learned to kind of chase the questions that pop up in my mind. But throughout the week, I'm starting next year a quarterback article. I'll go out on Monday. It's kind of 3 quick facts about quarterbacks, trying to kind of figure out home-away splits, how they, work when they got lofty spread, dual threats, all that. Running back report, the days of having workhorse running backs are pretty much gone. There's only 3 or 4 guys in the league that play 80% snaps. So every Tuesday I release an article that goes through every single backfield, breaking down the committees. Also doing that can help in season long in situations where, we were talking earlier previously about this Memphis running back, Antonio Gibson, how even if he hasn't had the true experience as a 3-down back, he has the rushing ability, he has the receiving ability to theoretically be a 3-down back. Knowing what backups have that in their skill set to eventually be that guy is huge, because we see all the time on like the biggest values in DFS end up being running back gets hurt, the backup's like 4,500, and he usually becomes a lock button in cash. Sometimes those guys do inherit the 80% snap roll and they have 20-plus touches and you need to lock them in the lineups. Other times they're actually in another committee with someone else. They haven't even earned the coach's trust and they end up, being 40% owned and not doing shit. So there's that. I've been writing wide receiver cornerback breakdowns for 3 years. I mean, look, people really want to say like defenses don't matter, running backs don't matter. It's just lazy. I mean, those notions at their core aren't wrong. The idea that running backs don't matter just means that there's more than 32 very good players on this planet that you can plug in. There's no need to pay a lot for one when you can get another one cheaper. And the idea that defenses don't matter, I think, is just more of a notion to like our ability to judge them well enough for it to matter is in question. But in my opinion, like if you're just going to ignore that, that's ridiculous. Try to get better at it. We might not know enough right now, but if we keep looking at it week after week after week, we will. I have found success with wide receiver and cornerback specific matchup data where, look, there's only Stephon Gilmore, Darius Slay are pretty much and Jalen Ramsey, only high frequency shadow cornerbacks that chase dudes into the slot. So, I'll be reading someone's analysis on a wide receiver and it's like, oh, you want to fade him this week. He's facing Patrick Peterson. That's a terrible matchup. Yeah, it might be a bad matchup, but if the guy plays half his reps in the slot and he's not even going to see Peterson, that's fine. And that's when we can use that to our advantage. And we take a guy that's only got 3 or 5% projected ownership, know that he's got a better matchup than the public thinks, go on from there. So wrap it all up. I got a cool article I like called a Mismatch Manifesto, where I actually combine defensive and offensive stats, pace, pressure, things like that. Because look, every time we talk about anything in football, it's like, why is this a good matchup? We say, oh, it's a great run blocking offensive line facing, 32nd ranked defensive line, but it's always 2 stats. We don't just have one-way stats to kind of help show matchups. So that's kind of what I attempt to do there. Get nice charts, explosive plays. I found it to be a really useful kind of big picture kind of blend the league. Because sometimes we get so nitty-gritty with this specific running back and his touches. We don't look at just, oh, look at this game where the Packers are home favorites against the Redskins. They're going to freaking maul them. So a lot of things you got to look at. Again, I'm still refining the process myself, but I think at the end of the day, it's just about trying to get as much information, as much actual information into your head organized. And yeah, and that's why, look, I try to do at least one piece of content every single day of the year for NFL. I'm not saying I do, but I get pretty close. I think I do a lot more than most people out there. And I still have so much more I need to know about the sport, the game, the EFS, all that. So, if you're breaking in the industry, you need to do different sports to survive. I get it. But I just think the faster you can really hone in on what you're good at, what you're best at, if you can let that hopefully help you rise to the top of whatever you're doing, that's going to be great. Because, I tried doing MLB. I tried doing NBA briefly, and I just knew there were people out there that knew so much more than me that were doing it full year round. There's just no way for someone that's only going to focus on the NFL for 5 or 6 months out of the year to compete with someone like me that's doing it 12 months of the year. It's nothing against them. It's just a reality. Sure, if you're a DFS amazing person that, is making 6 figures in all these different sports, kudos to you. You're crushing it. I have nothing to say about that. But, if you're one of these analysts out there, writers trying to break through, I think sometimes the idea that you need to have all these different skills, all these different sports is a bit overrated. It's good to be versatile. It's good to show you can do different things. But if you can be great, I would much rather be great at one thing and then above average at 5 things.
No, I agree to that. To be an expert, they say you got to be putting around 10,000 hours into something to become an expert. And I probably put 10,000 hours into DFS. I definitely did it in DFS. Definitely did it in probably each sport, but not to the level of where you took it, with your NFL analysis, the research that goes into it. So I consider you an NFL expert. Now, when it comes to season long, how do you play more season long than DFS? And then what's your approach for season long as far as like drafting players? And we have season long people who listen to this podcast. Who are the guys that you're looking to snipe, mid-round or either early rounds that you already start to see their ADPs are rising and you want to fade them, or guys that are kind of down below that you want to attack?
Oh, just draft Calvin Ridley in every single fantasy football league of all shapes and sizes this year. In general, I think I'm pretty well split between DFS, season long, and best ball after last year. Best ball is actually my most profitable of the 3. And it just all comes down to opportunity again. And, I've said this before, but yeah, just chase opportunity, not talent. So why am I going with Calvin Ridley? You look at the Falcons offense from the last 4 years, it's been a jumbled mess. Julio, Ridley, Sanu, Devontae Freeman, Austin Hooper, all these good pass catchers, consistently good offense. We just didn't know who's going to get the targets. I think Ridley's had 8 or more targets in like 10 or 11 games. He's literally been like a top, 15 fantasy wide receiver in those weeks and all but 1 or 2 of those games. He's been incredible when the volume's there. He's a first-round receiver. The only negative anyone's ever had about Calvin Ridley is that coming out of college, he was like 23. So, we're calling this young 20 guy like an old man. That's like still hanging on to him. Sanu's gone, Hooper's gone, Freeman's gone. Ridley is going to absolutely eat this year. And I think he's literally like 2020 Calvin Ridley is 2019 Chris Godwin. It's a talented wide receiver and an offense that lost key contributors that is still very explosive, still very good, and the target should be there. And yeah, I think it just, in general, just keep chasing that opportunity. Season long, I would say in all forms this year, just really be careful about rookies. In general, we overvalue rookies because we spend February through April obsessing about these players that aren't even going to, necessarily be on a good fit. I would argue 50% or more of a player's, eventual career production is going to be heavily tied to where they land, the scheme they're in, the coaching fit, how all that goes. And, it's just be careful. There's nothing wrong with, following college football, following these prospects, but I just think people get in trouble when your number 3 wide receiver on your big board falls to someone in the 5th round and, you're still holding on to them when you got other factors. You got new information. There's new information that you need to strongly consider. And historically, pretty much anyone at any position that gets drafted outside the top 3 rounds, at least as a rookie, like not much is happening there. Sure, we have our Philip Lindsay exceptions over the years. We can kind of see those exceptions start to merge in preseason. Like, again, there's things like preseason football. That's another one. Everyone says preseason doesn't matter. Preseason absolutely matters. Do the final scores matter? No. But you're telling me when the first team offense is out there, you don't care like about the usage of anyone? That's ridiculous. So don't just willfully ignore information just because you think it doesn't matter, this or that. Usually it does matter. When people say that it doesn't matter, it's usually just them trying to, I think, make themselves feel better about being lazy with it. I'm not trying to be too harsh with it. But
I'm one of those guys, man. I'm one of those guys lazy with the numbers, because sometimes I feel like this NFL is such a tough battle, and there's so much variance. Give me your takes, though, on the couple hot topics going on right now. I want you briefly to tell me what happens to Brady. Do you think the Bucks get better? Do you think his numbers get better? And I think personally, if there was ever to be one last resurgent year out of Gurley, this would be the one. Before he gets hurt again. In this offense, and I like the Hurst move too. I don't like Hooper to Cleveland because I think people just go to Cleveland and they die. But I think Hurst in this role, he was possibly supposed to be better than Mark Andrews on Baltimore. Then Mark Andrews broke out of nowhere. But I think Hurst and his Atlanta offense, the offense has never been a problem. You like Ridley for that same reason. If Gurley is healthy, just go back a couple of years. Dude was blowing through everybody. He's going to get that goal line work. If Atlanta's moving the ball and their defense is as bad as it was, but we talked about it on the Sirius show a couple of weeks ago, and we're like, everybody hit us up. He's going to get hurt. He's got a bad knee. We know this, but what's your take on Gurley? What's your take on Brady? And, if you got a take on the Patriots, are they going to stay with Stidham? Are they going to go after somebody in the draft? Are they going to make a move and maybe go grab, which I don't think is going to happen, a Cam or a Jameis? What's your take on these questions that are still out there for this season?
Yeah, so first on Brady, look, the Bucs are in a pretty good position. Their defense quietly took a really big leap forward last year. Just having Barrett, JPP, Sue on that defensive line, they were able to get good pressure. And, their secondary still isn't there yet, but they have been good about drafting a bunch of cornerbacks over the last few years. We're finally seeing guys like Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean starting to make some plays. So, you got Levante David, Devin White in the middle. There's finally a good amount of talent on this Tampa Bay defense. It's just tough, man. I mean, I don't think the Bucs are any better necessarily or a better Super Bowl bet than the Indianapolis Colts. I just think that both teams, you're taking an aging quarterback, putting him in a new system. You theoretically got the weapons. I think obviously the Buccaneers have much better skill position players than the Colts, but the Colts offensive line is much better, I think, than the Buccaneers. Defenses are both talented, but a little bit unproven. So it's interesting. The problem is, I don't think Brady at this point of his career is good enough to kind of rise a lesser team like the Buccaneers over a better overall team like the Saints. Brady wasn't washed last year. It's not like that Tennessee game was just him missing one open wide receiver after another or anything like that. But that said, I mean, this is still pretty much back-to-back seasons that we've seen Brady just not have that same elite ceiling we got used to seeing. We did not, as a collective community, give nearly enough, thought process to the fact that Gronk was leaving. Brady without Gronk in his career has just been a big drop-off. That's fine. A lot of quarterbacks aren't as good when they lose their number one target, especially when that number one target's the greatest tight end of all time. So, Brady, he's got a lot of talent now. But look, when players go to new offenses, it usually takes time to kind of get going on that. So I am fading the Tampa Bay Buccaneer Brady Super Bowl hype. It could be fine. They can make the playoffs. I think Chris Godwin is the best receiver to own, best player in that offense. Just his underneath slot work is going to, I think, mesh better with Brady than Evans' vertical goodness. But I just think, for all the hype the Buccaneers are receiving, I think the Colts are in a similar situation, not getting as much hype. Gurley, real quick. I think Gurley and David Johnson are in the same position. They're two mid-20 running backs that we're all treating like they're late 30 running backs that, injuries haven't been great, but it's also not like we have just consistent seasons of like 5 or less games being played. And both guys are in offenses where we can reasonably predict them to most likely get 3-down rolls, especially David Johnson. I think he's the cheapest 3-down back available in fantasy right now. My one concern with Gurley is that, look, like Devontae Freeman, he didn't have a 3-down roll in Atlanta over these last few years. He was splitting with Tevin Coleman. Last year, he was splitting with Ito Smith and then Brian Hill after Ito got hurt. I mean, Atlanta likes to use a committee running back system. Gurley's going to be the 1A for sure. I mean, I think we're thinking 60% snaps, 15 to 18 touches per game. But, he was getting fed in Los Angeles. He has the most rushing touchdowns over the last 2 seasons of anyone. a lot of that was, just undisputed kind of bell cow getting those short touchdowns. So good on Gurley. I think with how low his average draft position is, like, it's fine. He's still a value, even with less touches because of the lower ADP. But I think David Johnson, again, if we're just chasing opportunity, slightly higher than Gurley. I agree with you with Hurst. I just wouldn't expect Austin Hooper production. If you look at Hooper's just splits throughout his career, overwhelming amount of yardage has come when the Falcons are trailing. I'm not saying they won't be trailing in 2020 again, but the Falcons were not leaving their game plan meetings last season going, hey, Ridley, Julio, you guys take a step back this week. We're just going to focus on Austin Hooper. They get behind 2 scores, and he was their guy in the middle of the field, roping in check down after check down. So I'm not trying to hate on Austin Hooper. He's a very good real-life tight end, but the idea that, the Falcons are just going to be this, haven for amazing fantasy-friendly tight ends, I'm not buying. And as for the Patriots, yeah, man, get Cam Newton there, please. I think the thing with Cam, everyone's kind of like, why is no one signing Cam yet? I mean, it's just, we've heard again and again how hard it is for teams to conduct physicals right now. So
that's what it is.
Yeah, so I find it hard to believe no one's going to give him a true shot at some point. I hope it's the Patriots. I mean, I wanted Jameis to the Patriots for pure comedy sakes. Screw the on-field fit. I just want to see Bill Belichick's face after, his third boneheaded interception of the first half. So I think, gun to my head, I picked Stidham to be the week 1 starter. But, man, if Tua starts sliding in that draft, I mean, look out, because, Bill Belichick, I don't think he's going to waste more than 1 year without someone he feels like he can win with.
Yeah, I like that take. I like a lot of those takes. And the tilting factor of playing the Falcons in DFS is going to be crazy. So the weeks you play Julio, it's going to be Gurley. The weeks you play Gurley, it's going to be Ridley. It's going to be tough to pick because there's a lot of mouths to feed right now. I like your take on David Johnson as far as the opportunities go. And I always mess around with my friends. I'm like, yo, if you can redraft, hey, I'll play the game with you right now. You can redraft the NFL right now. Who's the guy you're taking? First guy on your team.
Period? Mahomes.
Yeah, period. All right. See, I would take Belichick. That's my joke I get everybody, because Belichick can turn anybody into gold. He gets wide receivers that nobody wants, turns them into studs or semi-studs. He'll cut you for one. He'll draft you in the first round. You'll win, defensive player of the year or whatever the case may be, and then drop you the next day because you missed a meeting, and then slide somebody else in there that you didn't even think can do a role or do a job, and then they go ahead and do their job. Belichick's a genius. I think you're right. I think if anybody's going to make some kind of risk, gamble, move, it'll probably be the Patriots, whether they slide up and get Tua, which I'm hearing some rumors. I don't know if they're just rumors. Cam and Jameis, I think it comes down to injuries. They both kind of have that injury tag on them right now, and you can't test them. And I think the draft's going to kind of rule out certain teams. And then, there's a couple teams that still need quarterbacks. And you see Cam in the gym. I don't know which one I would prefer, to be honest with you. They're kind of very similar in a sense, like a guy you probably don't want to coach, but has a lot of talent, but also makes a lot of mistakes. I would go Cam over Jameis just because he's been proven a little bit more as a winner. So that's the interesting take there. Let me hear your predictions right now. What's your sleeper teams that you think can make a run that we should maybe make some prop bets on, futures bets on? Because that's the only thing we can really talk about right now as far as plays go. And then who's your AFC champion, NFC champion, team that makes the playoffs that people aren't really thinking about? And then give me your MVPs, your rookie of the years, guys like that.
Yeah, so when I was kind of going through these teams, especially before free agency, just trying to figure out team needs and going through the position groups and all that, the 2 teams that really stuck out to me even before free agency started that were just really, really complete at almost every position were the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the Steelers, they went 8-8 last season with absolute worst-case quarterback play. I mean, Roethlisberger threw for 5,000 yards in 2018. Yes, I saw the picture where his beard's, down to his belly button. He doesn't look like he's in prime game shape or anything. It's risky to be banking on, an aging quarterback like this, but got that defense. Juju, Deontay Johnson looks like a year 2 stud potentially. James Washington was doing his thing at the end of the year. Eric Ebron was a good ad. I know he drops the ball, but guess what? He catches touchdowns too. Still got some running backs. There's rumors they're going to take someone like Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I know the Ravens are rightfully stealing the noise in the AFC North, but Pittsburgh, if they go on a run, I think they have the offense and defense to make a lot of noise. And really, same thing with the Bills. I mean, we saw last year, like, yeah, they lost to the Texans. That wasn't great. We saw Josh Allen, chucking the ball over his head in one of the most important moments of the season. But, like, they have this ceiling to make noise and make a run. Joe freaking Flacco won a Super Bowl and went on an incredible 4-game run and got it done. Josh Allen can do that. I wouldn't bet my life that he will. I mean, I'm saying take the Steelers over the Bills, take several teams over the Bills. But again, all 3 levels of defense, very good. Second year of their O-line, they have all 5 offensive line starters back. That's huge. Adding Stephon Diggs, now John Brown and Cole Beasley are extremely overqualified number 2 and number 3 receivers. Devin Singletary and Dawson Knox, I mean, they had good pieces everywhere on that Buffalo team. I really like what they're doing there. As far as picks, AFC, NFC, I just talked about those guys. I do like the Ravens and Chiefs more than both of them, so I'm not going too far off the chalk there. I got Chiefs over the Ravens. I'm just not betting against Mahomes when the only thing we've seen stop the guys in the ill-timed offsides penalty in pretty much 2 years of action. And NFC, after the Saints, man, I'm just looking at the Eagles, and I don't know who's really a more complete team. I know the 49ers fans are going to be up in an uproar, but at the same time, like, we've seen Jimmy G. He needs everything to be perfect around him in order for him to be like an above average to very good quarterback. We've seen Wentz just play like an MVP level before. And anytime you see that, I mean, that's in their range of outcomes now. It's not like, a situation with someone where we're predicting them to make a leap. We've seen Wentz play at the level we need a quarterback to play at to drag their team to a Super Bowl. What's been the Eagles' problem over the year? They cannot stop number 1 wide receivers pretty much ever. Adding Darius Slay, Nikel Roby-Coleman. They even helped boost the defensive line with Javon Hargrave. Love the Eagles' defense. And their offense, I think they're going to add another day 1 or day 2 receiver. Assuming Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey don't just randomly miss all 16 games with injuries, all of a sudden you got a nice little offense because you still got Sanders, Ertz, and Goddard as solid dudes there. So gun to my head, I would go Chiefs over Saints in the 2020 Super Bowl. Picks for Rookie of the Year. It's just going to depend on this landing spot, man. I mean, any of these top 5 running backs, if the Chiefs decide to grab one at the end of the first round, like, they're instantly going to be the number one guy that everyone's even talking about. I will say Graham Barfield, who is just awesome analyst. He's saying Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU, best pass catching back he's seen coming out since Christian McCaffrey. I mean, that's a huge compliment. Clyde did catch, I think, 50-plus balls at LSU last season. If we're looking at running backs right now, again, it's going to depend where they go. If they get that 3-down roll, if they get enough touches to even be considered a Rookie of the Year candidate. But if I'm looking right now, I mean, that's an undervalued guy that we know can theoretically play on all 3 downs. And then for MVP, I really liked – I got a good MVP bet for you. Matthew Stafford.
The line, you got to go deep here. Tell me how the Lions going to make the playoffs first, because you can't win the MVP without making the playoffs, right?
Yeah, but why are they not going to – everyone just goes, they're the Lions. They're not going to make the playoffs. Well, that's everyone's answer to it. And, okay, we'll see.
I'm a Stafford fan. I think he gets a bad rap. I think he's got one of the best arms in the league. So I can get behind Stafford, but sell me on the Lions as an overall team, because that's my stumbling block right there.
So after 8 weeks, Stafford played 8 games last year, broke his back. Now, we're taking a leap of faith that a 30-something quarterback coming off a broken back is going to be okay. So I understand you got to take a leap there. But, I mean, think about those Lions. I think they were 3-4-1 after those games. They had the Green Bay robbery early in the year. That was just should have been a blatant win. They had that Chiefs game where they fumbled on the 1-yard line, got taken back. They should have won that Chiefs game. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. The Lions were playing in the first half of last year at a playoff level. Stafford, any MVP debate was Stafford, Lamar Jackson, and Russell Wilson at that point. Stafford set career highs in everything in his first year with Darrell Bevell. It was amazing. You take Golden Tate and Theo Riddick out of the offense. You turn those 150 checkdowns a year into bombs to Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay. Good things happen. Whole crew's back. Ideally, the offensive line gets a little better. That's a little bit of an issue. We need him to be better with Stafford. I get it. But on defense, we always talk about these, every time there's a great defense, you go, well, defense, year to year is not that consistent, particularly turnovers. If there is like offense versus defense, I think we can reasonably expect a bad defense to go from good much more than we could say on the other side of the ball. And, we did see them throw, a lot of money at different guys around the league, a lot of former Patriots. They should know Matt Patricia's system well enough. I mean, if the Lions are 1-6 to start the year, it's another typical Lions year. I get it. But the way Stafford played last year, I mean, if you got a quarterback playing like a top 5 quarterback, don't just write off that team. And that's what Stafford was last year.
I like that call. I'm always, like I said, I always got behind Stafford. I think he got a bad rap, never really had a good team or a complete team around him. You had those early years where he looked, like amazing. He looked like a more mobile Ben Roethlisberger. That's the way I kind of see him. Kind of same build, same kind of arm, but he can run around a little bit more, just as tough. But he's never had a complete team, offense, defense, running back. I don't know if he ever had a running back when I can remember, but they got some holes there. I like the call. I hope the Ravens get Lamar Jackson a receiver. It's been shocking to me. There hasn't been that many great wide receivers in free agency. I know it's a wide receiver heavy draft. I know the Ravens are smart, with their management. I think they got to get him some help because that dude's got so much talent. He won the MVP, of course, but he did it with no receiving core. They had Mark Andrews as their best receiver, and him running the ball. Those numbers from a running potential is just off the charts. What's your goal going into the season from a DFS perspective? I know you're so focused on the back end, and you're so smart and you're so analytical. What do you have a goal coming up for this season? How much money do you want to win, or what do you want to achieve in DFS or season longs or best balls? What's your goal for this upcoming season?
I don't really have a financial goal with it. I'm trying to perfect my process year after year. And doing that, me being full-time with RotoWorld and, NFL, I'm trying to pretty much learn every single thing I think I need to know about a slate every single week. I'm trying to do that while writing. And, I want everything to layer on top of each other. Everything I tweet out is almost always an idea I get as I'm writing an article. Again, I think just the act of writing out your thoughts helps a lot. Even before I know some people just stick to podcasts. That's fine. But if you're going to podcast, still, I think it's just useful if you have a general idea of what you're going to be talking about, write out a few bullets, see what comes to your mind, see where your mind goes, what ideas you have. So going to last year, it was tricky for me because I just switched jobs in August. So I didn't have I wasn't familiar enough with kind of my new surroundings and stuff to kind of do the whole process I wanted to implement in the season. But for me, I got a quarterback article. I want to kind of do 3 quick notes on everyone. On that Monday, my running back breakdown where I go through every single backfield. Tuesday, wide receiver cornerback breakdown that, again, I don't want to jerk myself off, but I do feel like it's the best, in the business if you want to learn about wide receiver cornerbacks. That's out Wednesday. Matchup manifesto where I'm looking more broad team, higher level stuff. That's Thursday. And then, we talked about my helicopter earlier. I want to do a new article on Friday that goes through my 4 or 5 players that I'm considering for the helicopter, give a couple paragraphs about why I consider them to be, this 5 checkmark pick, why everything's lining up for them and why you should play them. So I really just my goal is that if there's someone out there that, feels that I'm their favorite analyst or they really like reading my stuff, if they don't pay attention to anyone other than me, I want them to be, among the top 1% most informed football fans, DFS players, whatever it might be in the world. So
that's awesome.
Close I can get to that.
I keep on trying to ask you for your personal goals, and it's just you want to help people and you want to do it your way and have your process, which I can really respect. You're not an I guy. You're more of a team guy, and that's why you've been really successful with what you've done. So I think a lot of people can learn from that, and you've kind of been, portraying that the whole entire time. I wish one day you'll be on our team and you could be writing for us and helping our guys out. I'm going to take some stuff from this interview because sometimes during the season, I'm running Win Daily. I'm in control of 20 different guys writing all this content and podcasts and videos. And we have projection models and all this other stuff going through that I don't write. But I always look back. So I write for USA Today. So I was writing for their website. I don't even write for our own website sometimes, but I write for them because they asked me to do an article. And I write that article on Tuesday or Wednesday, submit it to them. And by Sunday, I usually forget about writing that article. And then on Monday, I go back. I'm like,
why didn't I listen to myself? Because you get this information on Tuesday and Wednesday, and you forget what you even wrote. And then by Sunday, I read your article. I read somebody else's article. I read all of our guys' article. We have a Discord chat, an expert chat that we're helping people out. And there's so much information that it's tough for me sometimes to kind of figure out, was I right on Wednesday or am I right Sunday morning when the gun's to my head and I got to lock somebody in at 60% of my lineups? That information changes so much from day to day, and these conflicting reports that all right, they're going to give him more, target share, or they're going to put him on the field for 60% of the snaps, or this defense is this guy's hurt. Like the injury status one always throws me for a loop because there's so many times, he hasn't practiced all week, and then he goes out there and he has his best game of his career. Like, so when was he injured all week long? How do you figure that out? Like, I would love to read an article from somebody who's really close enough to decipher coach talk. I think that's like the one thing that, like, if you could write an article, coach talk, I would put it up on a site in a heartbeat. Like, what did Belichick really mean when he said this? Like, is there prior history when a coach says this? Does he really mean that, or is he just really playing chess with the other team? Like, that's the part that I can never really decipher, because there's so much information. When is too much information? Too much information. Sometimes I go with my gut usually, and that's when I'm usually the most right, when I come off my gut plays, whether I researched it or I watched something on film or I read your article. I'm like, you know what, you made a really good statement here, and I really believe it, and it's the right statement. Trying to hone in on that gut feel is always a challenge for me. And I think a lot of people challenge with that is like, how do you lock into that one play when, ownership's a good thing, but it's also scary when you're on the 5% side and everybody's on somebody else, whether you're on Galladay and everybody's on, say, Saquon that day, whoever it is. It's tough to say, no, I'm going to go against the pack, even though you're feeling it. It's a tough decision to make, when you got a lot of money at risk. So that's the thing that I would love to understand, like, when to trust your gut and what are these coaches really saying?
So one thing I've really learned, like, I think it was maybe 2016 or so, Aaron Rodgers got hurt and Brett Hundley was coming in to be their quarterback. And I watched every single pass Hundley had thrown in the NFL, read his old, NFL combine stuff, scouting report, all that. And I was like, this guy is not it. I'm out on Brett Hundley. And this works. Like, when a quarterback goes down, you get the backup, they're 4,500 or whatever on DraftKings. Like, they're going to be chalky. So it's a very big decision you got to make if you want to eat that or if you want to fade it. And in this instance, I was right. But the problem was I doubted myself. I ended up having Hundley exposure because really smart guys I work with that I respected, that I still respect, were in on him. But once I missed that, I was like, I don't want to be wrong because I didn't trust myself. If I'm wrong and I trusted myself, at the very least, I can figure out why I was wrong, improve that part of the process, and hopefully get better in the future. Man, like, this last season, I took it to the most extreme yet. Like, I literally read and listened to under 5, like, podcasts or I don't read other people's stuff because I got to put in the work. So if I'm not going to read other people's stuff, I better, look under every single rock there is, look at every snap count, watch every single play, try to do every single thing. But it keeps my head clear when that's happening. So when I'm trying to make a decision on something, I don't have 5 other opinions jumping around in my head as from someone else. So it's tricky. I do agree with you. I think you got to go with your gut to an extent. Just try to do everything you can to supply your gut with the most information possible. And if you can avoid, having contrasting opinions, that's all the better. I realize I'm blessed to be a full-time NFL writer. Not everyone has the time to do all this stuff, obviously. So my suggestion would just be, don't read 10 rankings columns and kind of digest all that information. Try to learn who do you think is the best. If you think, that Evan Silva is the best writer out there, like, read Evan's stuff, focus on that. If you disagree, that's fine. At the very least, you're only, you're working with your opinion and his opinion. I think just trying to keep that condensed so you can get better in the future will help. Because if you just keep trying to latch on to someone else, that's going to lead you to the promised land. It's again, you're short term. It's just not going to work out the way it will. So it's tricky, but trust yourself. And again, just try to surround yourself with good people and good information.
Yeah, no, that's the way to go, man. Like, I have to retrain myself every year, every day, because you fall for the trap. Sometimes you don't have enough time, so you got to rely on somebody else. sometimes they sell a good story. You know, they really get the facts there, and the facts are probably there, and they made sense. And every year I got to train myself. I'm like, I rather, like you said, I say it to myself all the time. I rather lose my own money with my own picks rather than lose money based off your picks and then be like right on my picks. There's nothing worse than being right and not playing it and playing somebody else as being wrong. And then you're just going to eat away at yourself for the rest of the week. And that's a terrible feeling. So I can definitely get behind that.
Well, it's funny when I miss on a play or something, when I send a helicopter out and the thing comes back down in flames and everyone's like, what's going on? It's like, yeah, this hurts. I've had weeks where I have a great DFS week. I win all my season long games and I'm like going to bed pissed off because I didn't get my, plays I sent out in my articles to the people right. So, it's annoying. The reality of this business is you're going to be wrong a lot. Yep. And that's why just all you can do is try to have the smart process. And, my first year out of college, I was, going through consulting, which I know a lot of people do, and it's a good business, good money, all that. But I just hated it. I hate being in an office. I hate small talk. I hate not being able to get my job done because you got to go to some meaningless meeting. And, every day that's like, oh, I got to write this article again. Oh, I got to do this. We're working in sports, man. I mean, this is so good. It's so much better than so many other jobs in terms of just day-to-day lifestyle. Keep grinding and just, I guess, know that it could be a lot worse.
No, yeah, I think this quarantine kind of helps for that too. I hope at least that a lot of people realize that maybe you don't need all the flashy stuff. Maybe you can take a pay cut. Maybe you can find something that you can, whether you do it from home or you do it on your own. I think that's a big thing. Like, so this win daily mindset that I wrote the book about and the whole team about, and we want good people around us, number one. But this mindset of taking these small victories and turning into a positive. So yeah, it's terrible right now. The whole world is on lockdown. I live in New York. Everything's on lockdown in New York. I've barely gone outside. I haven't seen another person but my wife and daughter in the past month and a half. But I could be bitching about it. I could be whining about it. But I'm really positive about it. I'm like, this is an awesome opportunity. I'll never get this chance again with my daughter or my wife to spend pretty much every waking moment with them. All these other people that I came in contact with, yeah, some of my boys I miss. I miss playing softball. I miss going outside, obviously. But, I think it's a blessing, man. I think it's a real good opportunity for everybody. Everybody hit the pause button right now, right? What are you doing with that pause button? A lot of people I speak to, they're bitching and they're whining about, oh, my kid's this, or, oh, I got to go do this, and I missed that. I'm like, this is a blessing, man. I get to sit home and do what I want to do, things that I couldn't get done before. I'm still not working out. I finally realized that it's just not a priority. Like, I'm not in any way, shape, or form, like, putting it as a priority. I always used to say it's an excuse because I don't have enough time. Now all I have is time. I got a treadmill behind me. I got a dip bar over there, dumbbells, and I spent like 4% of my time on quarantine doing something physical outside of walking. So it's an excuse. I know it. I'll swallow it and understand it, and I got to make the change. I got to make it a priority. But, that win daily mindset is taking victories, even in your defeats. Like, as DFS players or writers, we're going to be wrong just as much as we're right, Yeah. But what do we learn from it? And, even a misstep, it's a lesson. If you can take something from it, it's really a lesson. That's my mindset on everything. I'm always looking at the positive. Even when some terrible shit happens to me in life, when we started this business, Win Daily, I'll put it out there, like, 6 months into it, we're in the baseball season, and my developer just ghosted me. And I have no technical skills to develop a website and deal with customer complaints, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, for a good 24-hour run, I was like having a heart attack. I'm like, what am I going to do when people have problems on the site? Like, I don't know how to run our projection models to get it to be, post on the site. But I overcame it, sat down, talked to a couple other people. I have probably 1,000 times better developer now than I had before. That 24 hours where I was freaking out, like, what am I going to do? I could have crawled up in a ball and like, oh, I'm shutting down. I don't have anything right now. But you got to look at the positive, and it opened up a door to huge opportunities. So, like, right now, so many people are going to lose their job or are going to be laid off. And the people that come out of it with the right mindset, they're going to walk into bigger opportunities, better opportunities. So when I think about Win Daily, it's that type of mindset. And I see you have a lot of the way you're talking about team process, not really, judging yourself based on the results from that day, but more about the process. You already have it, but what do you
what is your mindset if you had a win daily mindset or you thought about it? What is your mindset that you kind of carry that's made you successful in life?
Yeah, two books I've read that really hung with me over the last few years was one, Extreme Ownership, which I think has a lot of similarities to kind of the mindset you were thinking about, where like, look, there's going to be terrible stuff. Everything that's happening right now is terrible and unpredictable, and the people that are losing their jobs because of it, it's in almost every case, like there's nothing they could do about it. I get that. Shit happens. But the more you can just look at situations and say, what could I have done better, and take that extreme ownership and just even go through that process, it just helps. When, you know, when your friend owes you money and they freaking don't pay you the money and you got that, instead of being mad at that person for 2 days and doing nothing except bitching, you know, okay, nothing gets accomplished with that. Instead, maybe think, okay, how can I avoid something like this in the future? You know, I just think you learn to kind of prioritize what's important to you when you look at every decision you make and kind of see whether or not, you know, if it's something that, again, you truly believe is just helping you move in the right direction. So I say extreme ownership. There's another book just called Learning How to Not Give a Fuck, because it was a good point in the book. And it was like, you know, we have this idea in our minds that, you know, we work really hard, make a bunch of money, we can go sit on some island for 30 years in vacation and live out the rest of our life. That doesn't exist. That's fake. We are conditioned and created to have problems. Like even the richest celebrities in the world, you know, more money, more problems. Like there's no one in this world, you know, that just got enough money and they said, okay, great. Now I'm just never going to be upset again. I'm never going to have any other issues arise in my life. We're going to have problems. We're going to have issues. We're going to have annoyances. Just do everything you can to try to make those problems, issues, annoyances like manageable and doable. You know, I like that my problem a lot of days is like, oh man, you know, today I got to get up by 10 a.m. to get ready for that 10:30 podcast, something like that. I mean, but just, you know, I would find myself getting pissed off about things, you know, whether it's a girlfriend or this or that. And I'd stop myself and I'm just like, this is stupid. Why am I wasting my energy on this? So, you know, learn kind of how to not give a fuck, because everyone has problems. We're going to keep having problems. You can be the best at whatever you're doing and life is still going to suck sometimes. So, you know, maybe that's a negative way of looking at it, but I try to spin it positively. So, yeah, man, I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to working hard, because if you're not working hard, then you're going to be wondering what if.
Yeah, no, a lot of those things you say, they're in my mind too, man. The harder you work, I believe the luckier you get. That's number one, hands down. I hate seeing people, I consult for businesses. I hate people, I'm not getting that promotion, or I don't make enough money, and they do absolutely nothing about it. They don't fix their resume, go elsewhere. They don't work harder. You know what they usually do? They work less and bitch more. So that's what usually happens. And then what I find really funny is I tell people, hey, yo, check out this podcast. It really helped me, right? And I feel like I'm on this level. I'll ask people above me, yo, check it out. They don't do it. I ask people below me, check it out. They won't do it. Read this book. No. It's like 1 out of 10 actually want to better their lives. And everybody else says, no, I don't have time. They make up every excuse under the book. And it's like, yo, you drive to work, just throw it on your car. You can listen to it. There's books that can read to you, but people don't want to listen to it or don't want to make those changes. And people are just lazy at the end of the day, man. Like you said it, like people say, oh, yeah, it's the best play. They looked at the rankings, and that's where they got their best plays from. Like we have a guy, Nick, that's just – he's watching those wide receiver cornerback matchups. He talks about all that stuff, and it's not surprising he had a massive year in NFL last year because dude was putting in more work than anybody else. So, you know, in regards to, you know, putting the work and anything, the results will come, man. And it's a long journey. Like I thought the same way. Like I want to retire by 30. Then I'm like, then I start talking to people who are older than me. Like my grandfather's like, the worst thing I ever did was retire. I'm like, why? It's like every day it's harder and harder to work to wake up. Just simply wake up because he has nothing to wake up for. It's like, you know what I enjoy, Jay? Like my highlight of my day now is driving around. I'm like, shit, that just got really real. Like you don't want to be that guy, because if you retire, and then I talked to my mentor and a couple other people, the best thing you can take from this is instead of retiring, you want to repurpose. So say, you know, say you got all the money you want to repurpose your goals. Now, you know, somebody like you're going to end up being like a high school coach for football or something like that. I see that. Yeah, that's going to happen pretty soon for you. You know, that's going to be like in your next 5 years. Like when you got your money right, you got your family right, and you can focus some more free time on coaching kids, I can see that in your near future right there. You know, so like you got to repurpose. If you got the money, you got the wife and the family, okay, what can I do to mentor people or teach people or give back to the industry that did so much for me. So I think that's what people don't see, that repurposement of what you're doing. You need goals. Like, even if Win Daily makes $0, but every day I wake up and my team is hungry and they're pushing forward and everybody's getting stronger and better. It's not really about the money. Yeah, the money hopefully will come. The business will hopefully grow. Everything will come with it. But that journey of waking up every day with a challenge, like, look, if I was on quarantine like anybody else and I didn't have something to be working on right now, I'd probably be bitching and crying too. Like, this is so boring. But right now I'm like, I'm working harder now than I did before, because now I have every opportunity to do stuff that I want to do. But people, for some odd reason, they can't find that passion like you have with football, or me running a business, stuff like that. Like, now I just truly hope for those people, they find those things out. Like, they sit down and say, you know what, I want to write a book, or I want to learn how to be a graphic designer, or I want to spend more time with my kids that weren't connected to me, whatever the case may be. They got to figure things out. And you're a pretty young guy. I'm pretty young. We figured it out already. We know what we want to do, but willing to sacrifice things to get shit done. And you're going to be successful with anything you touch, man. I really believe that. I've seen it from afar. Now speaking to you today, I believe it. I hope you're going to be on our team soon enough, doing some NFL, maybe do that coach talk, column for us on Fridays or Saturdays, whatever it takes. But, where can everybody follow you on Twitter so they can see these helicopters come out soon?
Yeah, appreciate it, man. We'll talk. But yeah, find me on Twitter at iHartitz, IHARTITZ. Usually have around 3 columns up a week, another couple podcasts, do some stuff on Periscope. Goal is a piece of content every day. So check me out there throughout the season. And thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. This is a bunch of fun.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon, man. It's been the Win Daily Show, and we'll be back with another one really soon.